Good morning, students. Welcome to the last video lecture on the topic fish migration. So this is a last general topic that we have to discuss, and it's an important essay, the fish migration. As you all know, that the term migration, it is a Latin word. Migrate means traveling, and it is a periodic traveling of fishes from one place to another and back for the breeding is called as a fish migration, and it is defined as a periodic and directed travel due to the changes in the environmental condition. Mainly the fishes migrate because in order to cope up with the extreme weather conditions. The migrations differ from the dispersal, the local movement and the seasonal movement, as the migrants always return to the region from where they had migrated. So that's the difference between the migration and the dispersal. And among the various important peculiarities of the fishes, migration is an important, remarkable, and the fascinating one. So, in the previous topics, we have seen the parental care, that is a beautiful phenomenon exhibited by the few fishes we have discussed, and still the migration is the most important and the fascinating, remarkable, and fascinating peculiarities performed by these fishes. Okay, the few species travel long distances from place to place in search of food and for the breeding. And this movement of a large number of the fishes from for the purpose of spawning is known as a migration. Small spawning in the term. Hope you are familiar with that. That is a breeding process, and mainly it is for the spawning that the fishes migrate. And according to Baker, in the year 1998, it is an act of moving from one spatial unit to another. So it is the migration. It is an act of moving from one spatial unit to another. Then, according to Nikolsky, in the year 1963, the migration is an adaptation towards increasing the abundance of the species. So, in order to increase the species, they migrate. So, that's a definition given by Nikolsky. Then this migratory behavior is of course one of the phenomenon in the life histories of the fish directed towards a reproductive success. So migration is a basic behavior that is exhibited by these fishes in order to perform the maximum reproductive success. Okay. So again, not all these species of fishes migrate. There are the several species that are migrating. That is usually the mature and the mature ones or the adult ones migrate for the spawning and the feeding. And there are the examples. These are the few examples of migratory fishes. The cod, that is a Gadus mova, then the herring, salmon, eel, angula, that is ilsa, then the tree-spined stickleback, lampreys, and the tunas. So these are the different species that commonly migrate, of which you have to study the example of the eel in detail. Eel and salmon. These are the two examples that you have to study in detail. The migration of salmon and eel that you have to study in detail. Then there are the certain terms that you have to be in familiar with while studying the migration. And the migration is a movement of larger number of animals from one place to another for feeding or the reproduction or to escape from the extreme weather conditions. So this is the purpose of migration. And the shoaling, that's an important term that comes under the topic migration. The shoaling is when large number of fishes come together and move socially. It is called as a shoaling. It is exhibited by the fishes called as a tuna. Then there is a schooling. Schooling is a migrating the fishes exhibit the high degree of coordination in their movements and carry out the synchronized manners to produce the different types of shapes, and this is called as a schooling. For example, forage fishes. So shoaling and schooling, these are the two different terms that comes under the migration. Here this is a picture that you can see. There is a heavy movement of fishes and this is the shoaling, and this is a pattern that you can see, a pattern of movement, and this is a schooling. Okay, so the fishes live in the two different types of aquatic habitat, the freshwater and the marine, and usually the marine habitat uh, shows this type of migration. You can see the migration in the marine type of habitat. Then there are the different types of migration, and this migration can be simply called as a migration or the spawning migration. Mainly the migration is held due to the or for that particular purpose called as a spawning. So the migration is also called as a spawning migration. It's basically divided into three different types. The first one, it is a diatramous. The second one is a protodromous. Then there is a third one, it is a oceadromous. So these are the three different types of migration. And this diatramous migration is again divided into two, that is anadromous migration and catadromous migration. This anadromous migration is a migration of fishes from seawater to freshwater. From seawater to freshwater, and catadromous migration is from freshwater to seawater. Then protodromous migration, it is from freshwater habitat to another freshwater habitat, whereas the oceadromous migration, it is from seawater to seawater. So once again, I repeat, the spawning migration is also called as a simple migration. This is divided into three different types, that is a diatramous, protodromous and oceadromous. And this diatramous migration is broadly divided into two, that is anadromous and catadromous. Anadromous migration, it is a migration of fishes from seawater to freshwater. Catadromous migration, it is from freshwater to seawater. Protodromous migration is between the freshwater bodies, that is between the two freshwater habitat the fishes moves. So we can see that similarly in oceadromous, there is a movement from the freshwater to the seawater and to the another seawater. Okay, so from sea to sea movement, it is oceadromous. So usually the most familiar, it is usually the migration is seen in the freshwater habitat and also in the marine habitat. Okay, so mainly the good example is of the marine habitat. So diatramous fishes are those fishes migrating from or between the sea and the freshwater, and it is divided into three, that is anadromous, a major part of the sea. They spent their life in the major part in the sea, but the freshwater moved to the freshwater for the breeding purpose. For example, the salmon and hilsa is a good example for the anadromous fishes. And there are the catadromous fishes. They spent their major part in the freshwater, but at the time of the breeding, they moved to the sea. Example, the anguilla or the eelfish. Then there is an amphidramous, that is a freshwater to sea, and vice versa. Example, there are the gobies. So there is an amphidramous type is also present. That means they move twice from freshwater to sea, and also vice versa. Example, gobies. Then in protodromous type of the fishes, the migration is confined to only to the freshwater. Okay, they move between the freshwater. Example, cobs and trouts. Marshes move upstream along the Himalaya rivers. It's a good example for the protodromous migration. Then in oceadromous migration, the migration is confined only to in the sea. Example, in the tuna and mackerel. So the oceadromous migration, the migration takes place between the two sea or the two regions of the sea. They migrate from the one area of the sea towards another area of the sea. Okay. Example is a tuna and the mackerel. Okay, this is a pictorial representation of anadromous, catadromous, and amphidromous. So adult move. You can see here the adult, they lay egg and the larvae, and they move towards the ocean. then return back to the lake. Then there is the catadromus. Also, there is a cyclic movement between the lake estuary and the ocean. The amphidromus, there is only the two movement. Okay, the adults itself move. There is no movement of the larva. Okay, so this is the pictorial representation, and that's all in this lecture session, and we'll be continuing with the other causes of migration. Then there is a speed and of the migration and the migratory movements and the rest topic in coming lecture session. So before that, you study these all terms, that is a dichromus, protodromus, oceanodromus, anadromus, catadromus, and amphidromus. You just study these terms and please study by heart all the different terms and what is what, and also the examples of each different types of fishes and the migration. Okay, that's all in this video lecture. Thank you.